It's around this time of year that students in their final year at high school would usually be preparing for their next step, be it university, an OE or heading into the workforce. But COVID has thrown a massive spanner in the works for many students, with career opportunities in some industries now few and far between. Our reporter Logan Church and cameraman Dom Thomas visited Wainuiomata High School to meet some school leavers and see what they plan to do after school.
For Year 12 and 13 students preparing to leave school, this time of year is usually preoccupied with figuring out what to do next.
Carpentry. A builder or sparky.
I'm focusing on rugby.
Be a construction worker, tradie, anything.
But for some, COVID meant big changes. Studying at home was a real challenge.
During lockdown, it was just really difficult for me to study, as it would have been for a lot of people. But yeah, I thought it would have been easier, but nah.
While others struggled without access to a computer.
At the last 2 weeks I got a laptop and I could get onto it. I couldn't catch up, so I failed.
There are more than 600 students at Wainuiomata High School, which is a Decile 3 school. Cherie Holmes is the career counsellor here and says the discussions she has with school leavers have changed due to COVID.
In the past, we've had a few students who have talked about going to university overseas or doing gap years overseas and things like that. So I've just it's funny, because we're in a beautiful bubble of New Zealand, it's not in our kids' face. It's not in our students' faces that actually there's a whole nother thing going on the other side of the world. When it comes to employment, those stock standard jobs like working in a cafe and those sorts of things, they're really hard to come by. Usually we would have students in year 12 and 13 who have part-time jobs, and that's not common anymore because there's people who have lost their jobs that are nabbing those jobs. So yeah, that's not common.
Here in the Hutt Valley, industries including events, hospitality and retail have been hit hard by COVID. The Hutt Valley Chamber of Commerce boss, Helen Down, says it's a scary time for many in the area.
I think with COVID-19 you can see that the young people are even more at risk, and it's harder for them to get into, or they feel it's harder for them to get into careers and understand their career paths and the options we've got around trades. So our work now is even more important because there's a lot of concern in the business sector. People are concerned about long-term employment, and young people are really concerned about what careers they're going to take on. So our work is really, really important.
Some of that work is part of a new program launched this week by the Chamber, which aims to connect schools with employers. The money for that has come from the government's plans to reform vocational education. Today, the students we met earlier are being shown around this 1,300-metre construction site in downtown Lower Hutt. Armstrong Downs Commercial Director Tony Doyle is leading the tour.
Very happy to have Wainui High School students come out for a visit through the site. So always good for our industry to be able to showcase who we are and what we do, and really cool for the students to be able to see what's actually involved in a construction site, because they normally think with building it's all about swinging a hammer, but there's so much more to it than that.
Electricians, scaffolders, welders. Tony talks the students through various career opportunities he can offer.
There's no way in the world I would have ever thought that I'd be in this position when I was your guys' age.
Careers NZ estimates up to 200,000 jobs will be lost in New Zealand due to COVID. Back at school, Cherie says she is directing her students towards jobs in sectors like construction, which she says offer more job security in a nationally volatile job market.
I am definitely directing them towards trades. Getting a qualification that is a trade, because I think there's a whole lot more security, job security in that. They've got a trade always, whether or not they want to use that trade in their future. If they get qualified in a trade, they've got that to always fall back on.
A new chapter for students in a new post-COVID world. For Checkpoint, Logan Church.